surrounding the color orange and reds, right? So all of these unaffected areas are probably going to be hit next, because we've seen in this pattern that that outbreak is going to continue to spread and expand. So you could have said multiple things for this question. As long as you tell me that any of these regions that are currently white, right, currently unaffected, could have been hit next, right? So Yesenia mentioned these regions down here. You could have also mentioned the rest of regions H, I, and J, right? All of those untouched regions will be hit next, right? So let's go ahead and write that in the sentence. All right. Sectors H, I, and J, as well as the remaining sections of A through E will likely be hit next. These areas are close to the most recent outbreak. All right, number 6. Why were the pheasants, remember this is a type of bird, why were they tagged and all the areas sampled each time a sample was taken? What did we get for this one? Let me get a volunteer. This is painful, guys. Christina, what'd you get for number 6?
The birds were caught and then they were tested. They were blood tested, and then the results would be marked down.
Okay, and why do you think that happened? So that is the process that they use, but why is that important? What were scientists trying to do?
They were tracking the spread of the disease.
Yeah, tracking the spread of the disease, right? If you guys are in person right now, which I think only a few of you are, or have been at least, we're doing random COVID testing in school. Why is that important? Why is there random testing going on in our school? Like on Friday, I was called to go down to the library and get tested, right? Michelle, what do you think?
So that we can track if there's people with coronavirus.
Exactly, right? Because we're trying to track the spread of the disease. So this is exactly why, Christina, that procedure you explained is right? The scientists are tagging and tracking these birds and testing them so we can track the spread of disease and see where it's going next. Now, but then let's also pay attention to this word tagged. If any of you guys have been to the zoo before, you may have noticed that a lot of the birds have almost like little bracelets on their ankles. Why do you think they have those? What do they serve as?
It serves as numbers. It's not like it's not like them being, well, they are kept in captivity, but it's like to see where they are and which number and like when they were captured or when they were helped.
Yeah, it's almost kind of like the bird's ID, right? We've all got a little ID card, maybe for school, maybe for just New York State, but we don't hand out IDs to birds. So in this case, we're going to tag them. So we have a record of whether or not they've been tested, right? We have an ID that we can track them with, right? But overall, we're going to tag and sample those birds to track the spread of the disease. Great job. Number 7, why were no samples taken during the winter months? This is a tricky one, but I'm curious to see what you guys got. Let me hear from, Derek, what are you thinking for this one?
I said because birds migrate somewhere else for the winter.
Okay, I like that answer. But let's think about what animal was responsible for spreading this disease amongst the birds? Does anyone remember, go back through that original passage we read, what animal was spreading this disease?
Mosquitoes.
Mosquitoes. Now, throughout these past few winter months, have we seen many mosquitoes around? Right, so we don't typically see mosquitoes in winter. Does anyone know why? Yeah, they're not equipped to handle the winter months. So they actually go dormant during the winter months, where basically they just kind of lay low and almost hibernate in a sense um, until they're ready to re-emerge during the summer months. So why do you guys think we didn't take testing samples during the winter months? Oh, because those mosquitoes, which are what's responsible for spreading the disease, weren't around, right? So you should have said something along the lines of, oh, that is all caps. No samples were taken during the winter months because the mosquitoes, which are responsible for spreading this disease, were not or are not active during the winter months. Right, so as Yesenia said, if those mosquitoes aren't around, they're not going to be spreading the disease. Great job. Now, number 8, we touched on this one on Friday, but I'm curious to see if you guys got any additional responses. So you are given the job of controlling bird malaria in this Region 5 game district. So if you were in charge of controlling the spread of this disease, what would you do? Amberly, what do you think? Oh, I think your mic is broken. Can you type your answer in the chat? So how could we control the spread of this disease?
Is it working now?
Yeah, it's working. Welcome back.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry it wasn't working those other days.
You're good, no worries.
Okay, I said that if I were to gather, I would gather a group of birds and then I would conduct a testing. And then after like a certain amount of time, see like the results I get from like each bird and then get a conclusion from it.
Yeah, I like that. But then I want to ask you one more question. When you're doing your testing, if you find out that one of those birds has the disease, what are you going to do with it?
I think I would do 2 things. I think one, I would probably leave it there and see what it does, okay, how it affects the other ones. And 2, I would like keep it until it can't no longer, just to see how it affects as like one.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, but I think we already know how the birds spread the disease, right? Right now we're trying to figure out, so we know that if we leave these birds together, they're going to spread it. And now we're trying to figure out, how do we stop this spreading from happening? So think about what we've done with coronavirus, right? If you know someone's infected, are they allowed to come to school? No, right? If you know someone's infected, are they allowed to go travel, right? No. What do we do with people if they're sick? They're supposed to do what? What do you think?
Stay inside.
Inside, right? And what's a word we could use to describe that?
Jail. Quarantine.
We're going
House arrest.
to quarantine, right? So to control the spread of this disease, Amberly's right. We're going to need to be doing constant
We'll go
testing.
with house arrest because that sounds more
Someone in one of my classes also mentioned house arrest.
But quarantine, it sounds kind of fun. House arrest is not. This has not been fun whatsoever.
Well, we're almost at the end of it. So Amberly's right. We are going to need to be doing constant testing, but then we also need to take that one step further. If we find that a bird or some birds are infected, we need to quarantine them to prevent them from spreading it to the rest of the birds. But now there's also another option that some of you guys may have thought of. Think about what's happening across the country right now in this stage of the coronavirus. People are starting to be what? Vaccinated. Now, you could have also said, maybe we could create a vaccine for this bird malaria, right? And distribute it to the birds. So we could also create a vaccine for bird malaria and administer it to the birds. All right. Is there anything else we could add to that question? Any other ideas? Great job. All right, guys, last question, number 9. Should the game biologist also examine farm livestock in the district for bird malaria? What do you guys think? Let me hear from, let's see, Diego, what'd you get for this one? Diego, come back. All right, let me bounce over to Marvin. What'd you get for number 9?
I didn't do this one.
Okay, let's see if we can figure it out. So just guessing, Marvin, do you think that we should also examine other animals for this bird malaria?
Yeah, we should.
Probably, right? And why do you think that?
Because the mosquitoes can also spread the disease to other animals and not just.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, so I like that. The mosquitoes could continue to spread it to the other animals, right? We could also see that the birds could infect other animals. In fact, if we look back at the original report written by the biologist, they noted that, let's see, a few other animals could also be affected by this disease, including chickens, turkeys, and grouse. Do we find some of these animals on farms? Yes, right? We could find chickens on farms. We could find turkeys on farms. So it's possible that these other animals on the farm could be affected by this disease as well. So yes, we should test those other birds, right? It's better to be, or test those other animals because it's better to be safe than sorry. Right? Yes, the birds could spread the disease to other animals, right? And we saw that chickens, turkeys, and grouse could all be affected by this disease as well. All right. Do we have any questions about numbers 5 through 9?
I mean, I don't have any questions, but for question 9, I said yes because, since the farms and our livestock is how we get most of our food and our crops and stuff. If they get sick, the meat could be tainted.
Yeah,
absolutely. Unless it's tainted, the muscle and the meat is tensioned up, and we could all get sick. It could easily make this a lot worse.
That's true, right? If this disease affects the animals on the farm, right, and then we consume that meat, how is that going to affect us, right? It's probably not going to be very great. So I think you guys are absolutely right. We should definitely test these livestock for bird malaria just to be safe and make sure that it doesn't spread to other animals or to humans. Great job. All right, guys, so if you have not already, please go ahead and resubmit this lab. All right, I'm gonna give you guys about 30 seconds to revise any of those answers and get it submitted. All right. Now, would you guys believe me if I told you that we are about to start our second to last unit of the year? Isn't that crazy? We're about to start evolution, then we've got ecology, and then you guys are done with living environment. I see Amberly's giving me the shocked face. Marvin says, wow, this year has gone by super, super fast. So we are almost to the finish line. We've just got to power through these last 2 units. Now, the reason we've saved these for the very end of the year is because these 2 units are like 75% of the regions. Okay, maybe that's an exaggeration, but they're like at least 50% of the regions. The regions loves to ask questions about ecology, and it loves to ask questions about evolution, right? So we want to make sure that these topics are fresh in your mind when you go into that test. What? Exactly, right? We're going to cram it all in there before you guys get the chance to forget it.
Yeah, this is your time. Write it down in your brain. Don't write it down on paper unless you're taking notes. And then the day before, just look at the notes. Make sure, just make sure.
Right. So we are preparing you guys to take that test. But because evolution can kind of be a tricky topic for some people to understand, today we're going to do a quick introduction to what you guys are going to start learning about tonight in your video lesson. So I'm about to pull up a video that's going to explain the process of natural selection. And as we watch that video, I want you guys to be thinking about the answers to these 3 questions right here. Okay, so question number 1, what exactly is evolution? 2, what causes evolution? And then 3, what is natural selection?
Didn't we all start off as monkeys and then casually, well, over time, expand into humans? You know, we went from monkeys to cavemen. From cavemen, we went to Neanderthals. And after Neanderthals, we kind of got a little bit smarter. But the Neanderthals were one of the smartest humans out here. So I don't know why they named them Neanderthals. It's probably because they looked stupid, but they weren't, you know. And after that, we evolved into what we are today.
Yep. So
terrible human beings. We have evolved even better.
Yep. So you are currently describing the process of evolution, right? So you've already got a head start to figure out what exactly is that.
Right? I mean, I took the class last year, but yeah.
You are ready for this, aren't you? All right, guys. So I'm about to the video. Again, as we watch this introduction, I want you to be thinking about what is evolution, what causes evolution, and what is natural selection. All right. So number 1, what is evolution? Who wants to tell me, based on what we just watched, what do we think evolution is? Or Sylvanus, you were pretty confident earlier. Tell me, what is evolution?
Confident would not be described as what I would say I would. But evolution is a cycle where the world and the mammals have been through or go through.
Right. So earlier you were talking about humans, right? And how humans have evolved over time, right? How else could we describe the changes that have happened? You could say humans have.
We were first described as monkey-like creatures. They have proof. They have proof of this. Actually, they have bones from a female, and her name. They named her Lucy. They have found her not too long ago in 1979. They have been researching her. They have put the bones together to find out that she is a female. She was around 4'11", maybe like 82 pounds, because there was not a lot to eat back then, you know? They went hunting and they would move from place to place as primates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you're right. You could even say that humans are different than we have been before, right? We've changed. So what is evolution? It's just change over time, specifically change in the inheritable characteristics of biological populations over time. So we're seeing how different species and populations have changed throughout history. Now, what causes evolution? Think about that frog example that we saw in the video. What are some things that can cause this? Go ahead and type them in the chat. What causes evolution? We have no guesses, none whatsoever. Perfect. Marvin says natural selection, right? We saw that, well, I'm not going to tell you too much about that because that'll be our next answer. Now, we also saw in our last unit that through selective breeding, we've gotten different types of dogs, right? So you could also say that inbreeding causes evolution as well, right? So we've got things like natural selection, inbreeding, hybridization, right? Creating new species, or even mutations. All of those are going to lead to changes over time. Now, finally, what is natural selection? All right, so think about that frog example. We had some light green frogs and some dark green frogs. Now, which one of those frogs were more likely to get eaten?
The light green frogs. They're
right?
easier to spot. You know, the dark green frogs, they blend in with the ground, like the dirt and whatnot. And then the green frogs, they can hide on top of the leaves or in the swamp, you know.
You're exactly right, right? So those predators had an easier time of eating those light green frogs than they did the dark green frogs. And if those light green frogs are getting eaten, are they going to be able to grow up and reproduce and create lots of other light green frogs? No, because they're dead, right? So natural selection is the process by which the environment really influences what traits are selected for in the long run. So this is the process by which organisms better adapted to the environment tend to survive and produce more offspring. All right, guys. So tonight we will be learning more about these vocabulary words. So tonight your homework is going to be to watch your Evolution Day 1 video and turn in those notes and exit ticket before tomorrow morning at 8:30. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you guys tomorrow.